Redefined Horizons, we try and provide great client service. And I've done some other videos that talk about finding the right fit between client, project, and the right size of surveying company. You know, is it a small company, a mid-sized company, a big company? Part of the reason I think getting the right fit, the right match between client project, and the size of surveying company is it's going to have an impact on the type of service you get as a client. And there's nothing worse than getting, crummy service as a client. I've been a client myself and dealt with that problem. It's very frustrating. I've had to deal as a consultant with clients at places I've worked before with clients that were unhappy because they were getting poor service. And nobody wins in that situation. So it's important to get good service as a client. It's important as a consultant to provide good service. And part of how you enable the provision of great client service is by finding the right match between client and consultant. And part of that has to do with the size of the project and the size of the company, the size of the consultant company. So I wanted to talk about just what exactly is great client service. We know it's important, but what are four aspects of great client service, and how do we try and provide that here at Redefined Horizons? And those four aspects of great client service they're important no matter what consultant you're working with. So even if you're not a client of ours, you should understand as a client these four aspects of great client service. And if you're not getting that from your consultant team, then you should address it. Maybe you need to think about a different size consultant, or a different consultant, some other characteristic of your consultant team means you've got a bad match, and that's why you're not getting good service. So here's the four aspects of great client service. Number one, does the consultant put your needs first? That's really important. And unfortunately, there's a lot of consultants in today's business world that will put themselves first. And that seems to, that's a matter of ethics, and it's a matter of moral values, and it seems that those moral values have been in decline in the business world. So you want to work really hard to find a consultant that's going to put your needs first. And I'll give you two quick examples of that, not at all related to land surveying, but I have a mechanic that I go to. It's a small mechanic. They have a small business. It's probably 10 people or maybe 5 people. But I have a mechanic, and that we take our cars to for oil changes and other repairs, maintenance that needs to be done. And I never worry about sending my wife down there with her car, because I've got a mechanic I trust, and I just know from his background he's got strong moral values. He's a small town business owner, and he's very worried about his reputation, and I think he wants to do good work. When my wife comes back from that mechanic and tells me the bill is $400, I never ask her to see the invoice. I'm not worried that the mechanic charged her too much for the parts, or that he performed a service that wasn't needed. He's an honest mechanic, and just the fact that I can send my wife down there and know that she's not going to be cheated is worth a lot to me. He gets all my business, and I never shop his prices around. I don't go to the guy down the street because he's $50 cheaper on his estimate. I've got a mechanic I trust. Having a vehicle that runs reliably is important to me. I want to take good care of my cars, and so I just pay the man's bill. His prices are affordable. I can tell just from the way he runs his business, he's not living a life of luxury, and so that's important to me. That's an example. Another example, I have an accountant that helps us here at Redefined Horizons with our taxes and some of our payroll, and he called me. He actually called me today. He needed to get into the business bank account for some tax stuff that we were doing, quarterly tax stuff. And he said, "Hey, can you just get me read-only access to the bank account?" And I said, "Alan, I'll just get you my login. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about my accountant stealing money out of my bank account. If I was worried about that, he wouldn't be my accountant." And he charges reasonable fees, but I'm not shopping him around. He runs a small business. I've been working with him for a while now. He's demonstrated to me that he's reliable and that he does good work, and so he's earned my trust. So I think that's part of great client service is being the trustworthy consultant. Somebody that your client can trust. And, there's situations we get into sometimes as a land surveyor where maybe we're under contract to do some work, and we realize for one reason or another the client doesn't need that work. and we call our client. We say, hey, based on what we found out here, we don't think you need to do this, and we don't want to charge you for it. And the clients are often surprised at that, but that's part of how we earn their trust. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect is of great client service is a consultant that really takes the time to ask questions, to understand the client's needs, and then somebody that listens. The client explains what their goals are. That's really important. I've got another video that talks about the 4 or 5 questions your land surveyor should be asking you before he starts work. I'm oftentimes surprised and disappointed at land surveyors that will spend their clients' money and not really meet their clients' needs. So that's something that we work hard to do at Redefined Horizons. So your consultant team should be meeting with you on a regular basis, certainly at the start of every project, to find out what your needs are, what your concerns are, what the risks are in the project, and which risks are more important to you. Is it schedule risk? Is it the cost of the consultant services? Is it the cost of the design? Is it the cost in construction? Every project's different. Every consultant's different. The financing on every project is different. So your client should be asking you those questions. Or your consultant, should be asking you those questions. That's part of great client service. And your consultant needs to be making an effort to communicate with you in that way. That's part of one of the things I enjoy the most about what I do for a living. Is the ability to. I was on the phone with a developer. He's got a project over in the Bay Area, California Bay Area, and he's not a client yet. He's in the early stages. He's got some property he's invested in. He's trying to figure out what to do, and we've been just. I've been back and forth with him by email and phone for a few days, just answering questions about, zoning and the type of improvements the city's going to want, and, what school district is the property in, and how can he get 3 lots or 6, and, how does the subdivision process work, and what is a tentative map, and, is the road that he's got to build, is it going to be public or private? And I've been trying to help him answer some of those questions so he can come up with a plan and execute it for this property. And, he told me he's been struggling. He's just been struggling. He hasn't been able to find somebody that can help him answer those questions. And, that makes me feel really good that I'm able to help somebody like that. So, understand what his needs are, his unique needs, his goals. He's got some financing on this project that come with some special constraints. He needs to meet a pretty aggressive schedule. So we've been talking about, what's realistic? What can we help him do? How might that change what he needs to do from the financing side of things in the next few months? So I really enjoy that, and that's, he appreciates that we're taking the time to understand his needs and ask the right questions. The third thing a consultant can do is respond quickly. As a general rule, I try and always get back to client. I try and return phone calls within an hour. I try to respond to emails at least in the same day, same working day, if at all possible. Danny and I are super responsive. I answer text messages and phone calls on the weekend. We don't always necessarily check email 24/7, 7 days a week. But you can always get a hold of us, and that's important. When you've got a land development project or a real estate transaction, especially something with an aggressive schedule, sometimes you need your consultant to respond to you quickly. I had a client that they were trying to close escrow on a $600 million land transaction in the Bay Area, and I worked with them over the Thanksgiving weekend trying to meet their deadline, and they were just so appreciative of that, thankful that we answered the phone, that we were willing to work a little bit over the holiday weekend to help them meet their goals. So if you've got a client that's not answering your phone calls, if you're a client and you have a consultant that's not answering your phone calls and not responding to your emails, then that's a serious problem. And you're not going to have a successful project with a consultant that's failing to communicate. And so you need to look at that. And, you may have to consider getting another consultant if your consultant's not communicating, if you're paying your bills. Sometimes clients don't pay their bills and then wonder why their consultant won't return their phone calls. But if you're being a good client, you deserve responses from your consultant team. The fourth thing, this is the last thing, the last aspect of great client service is consultants that communicate clearly and in writing. So that's really important. We live in a hectic world. Real estate development is complex. People forget stuff. If I don't write stuff down, I forget it. And so it's really important to have a consultant that can communicate in writing on a regular basis about the status of your project, the decisions he needs you to make, the decisions he needs other people to make, the decisions that he's made or she's made, could be a lady. It's important that he communicate with you and that communication be in writing. Even if he's still talking to you on the phone, that's great. I do that with my clients, but I always follow up with either an email or what we call a job status report. Say, hey, here's what we talked about on the phone. Just a reminder, here's where we're at. Here's what I need you to do. And here's what I need the architect to do. Here's what I need the attorney to do. And what that does is it helps keep everybody accountable on the project team, keeps the client accountable, keeps the other partners, the architects accountable, the civil engineer accountable, the attorney accountable, keeps me, the land surveyor, accountable. Everybody's on the same page. This avoids misunderstandings and problems. And so if your consultant isn't communicating regularly and he can't write clearly and he's not providing you with good documentation on your project, that's a problem. That's something that any licensed land surveyor or land planner should be doing for you. So those are the 4 things that kind of make up great client service in the real estate industry. Again, just to review those, somebody that's going to put your needs first, right? And is going to earn your trust. You can trust that they're going to put your needs first. They're going to take the time to ask questions, find out what your needs are, what the needs are in every individual project, is going to listen when you answer those questions, is going to work hard to make sure your needs are met, that responds quickly when you reach out for communication, and that communicates clearly and in writing. Those are the 4 things. So hopefully you're getting that from your consultant team. If you're not, look for another consultant.